since I don't know how to do this thing. Going live. Hopefully, we're both on YouTube and Facebook for the first time. We have done StreamYard, so hopefully, it's going out to both avenues, and that way things are a little bit more consistent. So, anyway, we are doing a fettuccine today. Basically, my niece, Erin, right here picks a recipe, and we do it. So, let's talk about the hierarchy of health. This one, typically, I'm doing the forks over knives, no oil. Today, the sun-dried tomatoes that I got had some oil in them. And guess what else has oil in it? Most of your peanut butters, almond butters, those kind of things have some oil in it. So this recipe does not follow my normal criteria of no oil. But this is what we're talking about, the hierarchy of health. Choose the best that you can at the time, right? So I eat at restaurants. I know that most of them are not going to cut out the oil. So I do sometimes eat oil. I just, for myself, do the forks over knives cooking when I'm by myself because I'm trying to stay healthy. I'm trying to keep my LDL low. I'm a cath lab nurse, so I'm trying to prevent myself from having a heart attack. I don't want to be a patient to myself. So I think that you can do a lot toward preventing that. Prevention is key. You need a lot less doctors if you prevent in the first place. And I've eaten like crap when I was younger. So this is my penance, my I can't think of the word, but anyway, so that I am trying to eat healthier, and this is part of my journey is cooking for myself on occasion. On Saturday, we do it right in front of you live. So we are doing a white bean fettuccine Alfredo with peas and sun-dried tomatoes. So we've got some sugar snap peas. Those are going to go into the pasta after we get started. So Erin is going to turn on the stove. We've already got 2.5 quarts of water in our little pot here. I measured that out before. This is going to be shorter than normal because we're also using beans in a can. So this is going to make the sauce. We're going to use cannellini beans, basically a white kidney bean in a lot of Italian food. So once again, we've talked a little bit about the hierarchy of health. Let's talk about it again. So what is the best health-wise? I think that if you get dry beans, soak them yourselves, cook them for a long period of time, that's the healthiest, right? So cans, what is the big deal about cans? So a lot of times the lining inside the can is, in the old days, was BPA. And they've gotten better at that, but there's still a lot of stuff in there that may have soaked into the bean. Might not be the healthiest, but for convenience sake, we're using canned beans. And I would suggest to you that, you know what I mean, sometimes using a canned bean is not a problem. Do you want to do the healthiest thing for yourself? Use dry beans, soak them for at least 6 hours, cook them for whatever the recipe calls for or whatever the packaging calls for. And that is the safest. Also with beans, you got to be careful with lectins, right? So you don't want to just take the dry beans and cook them over high, hot heat because you will have a lot of lectins in there, and those are not good for you. So you want to cook beans in a lot of water to get rid of the lectins. So we're going to try to stay in frame here. This is the pan. We're waiting for it to get to a boil, and maybe I'll bring the camera over there as we do that. We're going to use, we were supposed to use whole, don't dump all your pasta on the ground. So this is just a regular fettuccine. The recipe called for whole grain, whole wheat, but this is not whole wheat, right? So once again, probably not the most nutritious, but it's better than a lot of other alternatives. So just regular fettuccine. The recipe calls for whole wheat fettuccine. Like I said, we sometimes mix it up. We do, this is Chaos Kitchen, so we just do whatever we want and see how it tastes and get better at it over time. And I would suggest that cooking is that experimentation of learning the spices that you like, learning how to get some more whole plants into your diet. So we got whole plants as far as snap peas. We'll probably cut the ends off of a lot of these snap peas. We've already gotten through, supposed to be 2 garlic. We got 3 garlic. We like garlic a lot, so we're going to add more garlic than the original recipe. We got the snap peas. We're going to just kind of, we're going to cut off our heads. I'll try to keep my head in the, we're just going to cut off some of the tops of the peas so that's not my favorite part of the pea. So that's basically all we're doing is just cutting off the top of the pea, cutting off the top of my head because I'm not the best cameraman. I'm the cameraman. I'm the cook, and I appreciate Aaron coming in here and cooking with me because it makes it a lot easier. So that's all we're doing right now. I'm gonna bring the camera back up so you can see me. I know, because I'm a supermodel and you should see me. That's my belief. So anyway, so we're just getting these peas. These are going to go in 3 minutes before the pasta is done. 6 to 8 minutes for the pasta? So the recipe calls for al dente. Al dente is not my favorite way of cooking pasta. I like noodles soggy. You need a long soggy noodle. Hey, stop it. So in my opinion, I like pasta soft. I like pasta. So al dente is not my favorite way of cooking, and I've learned that over time because I've done it a few times. And al dente to me is not my favorite way of cooking pasta. So we're going to do the noodles for about 8 minutes. About 5 minutes into it, we're going to throw the snap peas, the sugar snap peas in there. These are a little bit fatter than your, what are those? Just snow peas. The snow peas are thinner. So these are a little bit fatter. Probably have, and when they say sugar, it's not like white table sugar. White table sugar is highly processed. I say too much. So anyway, sugar inside of the plant is a lot better for you than processed sugar. So the beet that they make the sugar from is way better for you than the processed sugar where they get rid of a lot of the plants because there's other chemicals, a lot of other phytonutrients in plants. So sometimes there is a synergy, I would suggest, in some of the chemicals that are in the plant. So the whole plant is better for you a lot of times than when we process it out too much. Highly processed food is, in my opinion, some of the reason why we have so many health problems in the United States that we didn't have many years ago. I personally don't eat any meat. I think that you might be able to stay healthy eating some amount of meat. I think that most Americans, hey, in that recipe, does it call for this whole bag? So I think the bag is 8 ounces of sugar snap peas. So we're basically just cutting off some of the tips of the sugar snap pea, getting in preparation. Have we come to a boil yet on our water?
Nope.
So the water has not come to a boil yet. So once we have a boil, we're going to throw the pasta in. The pasta is going to initially get rid of that boil probably. So you're changing the temperature of that water once you throw something new into it. So then we're going to set our timer for 5 minutes because I'm not good at time. So I usually have some sort of timer with me so that I can keep an eye on what the time is so that I kind of have an idea of how well that's cooked, right? So once again, you can change your temperature by putting things into your pot. So if you're putting ingredients, if you're putting water, you can slow the cooking process down. You can increase the cooking process. I like to use a gas stove because gas to me is instantaneous change in your heat. You have unlimited control over your heat by just dialing the gas up or down. Electricity, in my mind, it takes a little bit more time. So basically, we're just throwing these sugar snap peas into a little dish ready to go so that once this cooks about 3 minutes until it's done, we're going to put the sugar snap peas in. And that's all we're going to do with that part of it. We're going to make the sauce out of, I think it's 4 ingredients. We got the white beans, the white kidney beans, the cannellini Italiano beans. It's some almond butter, some nutritional yeast, which if you're a vegan, this is kind of one way to get a little bit of cheesy type flavor. It's also a way of, most of the nutritional yeasts are fortified with B12. So if you're a vegan like myself, you may need to supplement with B12 because it might be a little bit harder to get B12 if you're hardcore vegan. If you're an omnivore, if you do eat some meat, a lot easier to get your B12. So those are some of the things you should think about when you're deciding what is the system I will choose for myself. I'm going to suggest to you that if you are vegan, it's a little bit easier to prevent disease. It's a little bit easier to lose weight if you're not eating meat. Meat has meat and processed foods, especially sugar, white flour, these kind of things can affect your hemoglobin A1C. They can affect some of your insulin resistance, in my opinion. So it's a little bit easier. So I'm going to go ahead and put the garlic. I've got a big glass Pyrex bowl here. This is what we're going to mix everything into. We'll probably have this all ready to go. This is supposed to be a 15-ounce can. We got a 14-ounce can. We're going to just dump the whole can into that. I think Aaron rinsed this out, got rid of some of the stuff that was in that. We're also going to use some of the water from the pasta after we drain it. What are we putting in there? We're putting in 2 tablespoons. So I don't have actual tablespoons. I just use a big spoon. I call that a tablespoon. So we're putting in 2 tablespoons of almond butter. This almond butter has separated out pretty well. So then we're going to put 2 tablespoons. I don't know if you can see that in there. Just 2 tablespoons of almond butter. We are now putting in 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. This is going to be the sauce for let's put a little tiny bit more. Perfect. All right. So we got 2 tablespoons of nutritional yeast. And then the garlic. We already got the garlic in there. We're going to just use an immersion blender, and we're going to blend that. So I think Aaron's going to start with that. I'm going to look and see how we're doing with we're going to get some tiny bubbles in our water. So we're going to wait till that boils. We're going to throw in the pasta. We're going to cook that for 5 minutes. Braun. This is a Braun immersion blender. The button is up here. There may be newer models that might be different. So we're just I'm going to bring this down so maybe you can see what we're doing. We're just doing immersion blender into the beans. This is going to make our sauce. We're also going to add some of the water of the pasta after we're done to make that a little more wet. So this is the fettuccine. This is a vegan version of that fettuccine, so we're not using cream like a traditional fettuccine. Once again, we got a little bit of oil in here because the sun-dried tomatoes that I bought had oil. The almond butter has a little bit of oil.
It smells good.
And it smells good. Aaron has a much better sense of smell than I do. I am blessed with not the best sense of smell. That's why I can be a nurse. Ha ha ha. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to just add some dry spices too. This is garlic powder. So the garlic is better, but we'll throw a little bit of extra garlic. I'm going to put a little umami, a little bit of mushroom powder, just for the hell of it. Just because I love mushrooms. I don't have any mushrooms. So I'm just putting a little bit of both of these in there. I'm going to have Aaron blend that up a little bit. When we're getting a little bit closer to done, I'm going to put I'm going to put a little bit of Italian seasoning in there now. I'm going to have her blend that up a little bit more. We're going to put some of that on top too. Let's see, what do we got in here? We got some organic oregano, organic basil, marjoram, sage, and garlic. So this is going to be a really garlicky dish. So our pasta sauce is basically ready to go. That's going to get dumped back into the hot stuff. We're going to pour out the liquid. I'll probably need a colander or I'm going to have to get some gloves here and hold the pan and hold the lid separate and pour that into this glass dish, and be careful when I do that. We've got a pretty good boil here. I'm going to get a little bit more boily. And then we'll put our timer on and we'll watch that for about 5 minutes. Then we're going to put snap peas in for the last 3 minutes. Once again, like I said, I'm not cooking this al dente. On the package, it says 6 to 8 minutes. I don't like al dente, so we're going to go a full 8 minutes with our pasta. Use the instructions on the back of your pasta. If you want whole wheat, it might have a little bit different time. So I'm going to go ahead and open this a little bit more. And I'm going to just basically separate the package out about half and push that out. I'm going to bring this down. I'm going to try to keep my head in there so you can see the pan way back here. We're going to open this up. We're going to dump half the pasta into the water. We're going to use a spoon or spatula and get that all into the water.
Do you want to cut these?
Yeah. We're going to go ahead and put our timer on for 5 minutes. 5 minutes. We're going 5 minutes. And then in 5 minutes, we're going to throw the snap peas in. We've already got our pasta stuff, our pasta sauce, which is made with beans, nutritional yeast, almond butter, and some garlic. We're going to cut some of this tomatoes and get rid of some of this oil. I like as little oil as I know you rinsed it, but there's still some oil. So we're going to cut these, rinse them a little bit more, and we're going to throw that back in there at the very end just to warm up the sun-dried tomatoes once we're done. So Aaron is going to do a little bit of cutting here. I'm going to bring this down, try to keep both of our heads in here, maybe. Look at the camera work, buddy. Look at the camera work. She's just cutting them up into a little bit smaller pieces. And that's all we're doing with the sun-dried tomatoes. Look at that concentration on that face right there. Yeah. Look at how much work I'm doing. Hardly any. This is the worker bee right here. So we're just cutting the sun-dried tomatoes into a little bit smaller pieces. As you can see, this is about the size that they came out of the... we're also going to rinse this a little bit more, get a little bit more of that oil off. Once again, I'm trying to limit the amount of processed oil that I eat. So do I still eat it sometimes? Yes. I would suggest that if you have heart disease, that if you've already gotten a stent or something like that, maybe you look into not using any oil at all, right? So if you're concerned about your LDL levels, maybe you want to stay away from oil completely. And I think that that's a very wise decision that you could make in your own diet. We're going to turn this down a little bit so we don't boil over on our pasta. I'm going to get some gloves out so that we're ready to go. And try not to burn anybody with this hot water. So we're going to basically pour the pasta water into the sauce. We're going to immersion blend it a little bit more. Ernan is going to go rinse just with some water from the sink, get some more of that oil off. That's going to go in toward the, we're going to put that in at the very end, just kind of warm it up with the sauce over the pasta once we get done here. So basically my plan is once this timer goes off, we put the sugar peas in for about 3 more minutes. Then we're going to come back over here, pour the water into our pasta sauce base, and we're going to blend that a little bit more. We're going to pull the pasta off to the side. We're going to pour that pasta sauce back on, put it back on, warm it up a little bit, and we're going to eat it. We're going to tell you what we think. I'm going to go over here and get some pepper. I don't know if you've heard this before, but I love pepper. I probably love pepper more than you, unless you're a freak like me. So a little bit of black pepper. We're going to churn that up here. So once we've cooked this for about 5 minutes, turn this down a little bit more. Try to get that to a little bit slower of a boil. And what's our time here? We're very, very close. We got a minute more. So once that goes in, all the sugar snap peas will go in. At the very end, we're going to have some sun-dried tomatoes. We're going to throw in a little bit more spice, I think. Some of the umami, some of the Italian spice just on top. just for flavor, see how it tastes. So we got us half a minute, maybe a little more. 20 minutes into the show. Try to do these shows about 30 minutes for your viewing pleasure. We would love to have your feedback. What would you like to see us cook? Once again, we're trying to do more whole plants in the dishes that we eat. These could be side dishes. If you are a omnivore, I call you an omnivore if you eat some meat. You're an omnivore if you're an herbivore like me. I like to try to experiment with flavor, taste, making plants taste better in a dish. So that is my goal. So if you have, especially if you're from a certain culture and you have a dish that you would love to cook with us, we would love to cook it with you also. So just comment below, tell us what kind of dish you've got, and we would love to have you on the show. You can come virtually. We'll try to get this StreamYard to a science so that we can just invite you in quickly and easily. I don't even think you need to necessarily pay for StreamYard in order to just jump on in our little live here. We would love it. We'd like to make this a party. The more people that we can involve, the better. So it's about ready to ding. I'm going to go ahead and put this back to 3. I'm going to put the snap peas into the pot. We're going to let those kind of cook, black a little bit in the pot. Then we're going to dump out the water into the pasta sauce that we made previously. We're going to immersion blend that a little bit more. We're going to throw that back over onto the heat. We're going to let that heat up a little bit with the tomatoes, the pasta sauce, and the pasta. We're going to add some pepper. Everything needs more pepper, in my opinion. We're going to also put a little bit more of this on top. The umami from Trader Joe's, which is mushrooms and a couple other things. It's probably got some garlic, black pepper, red pepper. So we're going to add that. Then we're going to see what it tastes like. Hey, we might just do that like in a separate video. Once again, I try to keep these around 30 minutes. I think we're about 22 minutes right now. This dish is a little bit faster than most that we do. So
It's exciting.
yeah, it's getting close. It's getting very close. We got a couple more minutes. What should we talk about? I've talked a little bit about the hierarchy of health. That's my idea of, hey, there's levels of healthiness from the whole plant to the more processed. So the more processed, the ultra processed, you're dealing with a lot of white sugar, a lot of white flour, probably not the best for your health. So if you can limit some of that stuff, I think it's helpful. The more whole plants, get some more snacks that are, hey, you just grab an apple. Hey, that's way more healthy than the candy bar that you were considering. So just be more conscious of your decisions. I think that's wise. A little bit of sun-dried tomatoes. Once again, I had a lot of oil, but we've taken most of the oil, rinsed it off. What else? What else? What else do we got here, folks? We got a minute more. Then we're going to dump this water. Protect your hands when you got yourself a big-ass pot. This is going to be heavy. Pray for me. Dear Lord Jesus, please save Mark from his own stupidity. We got a minute more. One more minute. One more minute. Look at those dancing skills. Trying to keep you entertained the entire time. That's sad dancing skills.
Thing you do with your scraps.
Oh, we were talking about this earlier. One of Aaron's friends posted on one of our videos that, hey, guess what? The whole plant can be eaten. So a lot of times I have been composting, and so there's sometimes when maybe I could be eating more of that plant, right? So a lot of times the veggies, hey, they're starting to get a little mushy area. Sometimes you can throw those in cold water or ice water, and it can freshen some of those vegetables up or those fruits up to where they are edible now, or you can cut out the mushy part, right? So I'm going to suggest to you that I love the stalk of the broccoli. I think it's a different texture. You can use the stalk as more of a vegetable in your dish. Hey, if you cut those real thin and cook those through a little bit more, throw those in with your pasta dish, and you can eat more of those plants. So I'm going to suggest to you, I think that was Mario Batali was getting into not perfect vegetables and stuff like this. This is probably going to ring here in a minute. I think we're just about done here. I'm going to try to pour this in here without burning anybody. And making too big of a mess. And I think I'm making a mess. All right. Scott is saving the day. That bowl was not big enough. We're going to set the pasta off to the side.
So to use all the water?
That's what it said in the dish. So this is a little too much water. And when I put this immersion blender in here, it's going to make an even bigger mess. Okay, Aaron, I want you guys to back up a little bit. We're going to see what kind of mess we can make here. Look at this. This is Chaos Kitchen, folks. This is why we call this Chaos Kitchen. I would get a bigger bowl than the 2-quart Pyrex dish. Look at that. This is learning. There is no fail. There is only learning. So we're going to pour this back in. Mark is going to try not to burn anybody, including himself. He's going to take this bowl. He's going to pour that back in over the pasta. We're going to dump in. We're going to dump this in over the pasta. Here, bring that spoon over. Scrape some of that side up. Now immersion blend. Who taught you how to use an immersion blender? Because they did not do a very good job.
Me?
You didn't teach me how to use an immersion blender.
Oh.
I screwed this up. You didn't. This is my mess, girl. All right, so we're also going to clean this before the wifey gets home because we are not. Let's go ahead and put that back over the heats. We're going to let this cook down a little bit more over the heats. A couple more minutes. Might have used a little bit less of that water. So I'll have to look at the recipe a little more closely. We're going to let that cook down a little bit more. Should be a kind of a creamy sauce. That might have been too much water with 2 quarts. So I don't know what kind of pasta they used. Maybe that pasta had less water than we used. But what does it say? Just put water till it makes it the right consistency. So this might be a little bit soupy.
It says to add the
water from the pasta. So it doesn't really give us an indication of how much. I'm going to go ahead and take this out. We're going to let this cook for a couple more minutes. We'll post some pictures in the comments on both of these platforms of what it looks like. You decide what it looks like. Maybe I need to use less water than the 2.5 quarts that come off the pasta. And once again, this is a learning thing for all of us. You guys have a great day. Next Saturday, give us a recipe if you want us to cook. We're going to wait till tomorrow. Aaron's going to pick out a recipe if you don't. So have a great one. Talk to you next Saturday. Cooking show. Have a great day. Bye.